Welcome to another Kundalini After Dark session. I'm your host, Brent Spirit. I'm here on Zoom. We've got 18 in the Zoom room. We've got a bunch tuning in on YouTube as well. Thank you all so much for being here live with me on this Sunday night. If you're listening to the recording in the archive, you can join us live for the next Kundalini After Dark. The link is in the description, as well as links to a bunch of other things. We've got some other events. We've got the Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Kundalini Q&A event. We've got Shakti Hour, which takes place most Tuesdays and Fridays at 8 a.m. Eastern. It's a great chance to join the community in a shared Shakti field, a shared energy field where we get to practice together to support one another as we move through this process. Got some courses there as well. Check it all out. Thank you all so much for being here. Tonight, we're talking about how to survive Kundalini Awakening. So I've titled today's meeting Kundalini Awakening Survival Guide. So I've quickly put together some talking points here just to spark some conversation and whatnot. And then I'm going to open the floor up for others to share as well. If you have some tips for helping others get through this process, that would be really helpful. Maybe you can share about some of your own experience. Maybe you've got some questions for myself or the group. Maybe you're having a difficult time. You just want to talk about it in a community of people that can relate and understand. That's what we're here for tonight. This is Kundalini After Dark. Thank you all so much for being here. Special thank you to all those that have offered a donation at any point. It really, really goes a long way. It's what allows me to do this, so I appreciate it so much. Of course, if offering a donation is not possible for you, it's not a problem at all. There's so many other ways to support me, like you all have been, like being here, connecting, engaging, supporting one another in the chat, liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff. Thank you all so much. So, of course, tonight, no medical advice. This isn't a substitute for professional counseling or psychotherapy, just a conversation about spirituality on the internet. So, let's get into this here today. A Kundalini Awakening Survival Guide. So, I literally just put together like a bunch of points here shortly before joining. So, we're just kind of winging it tonight, kind of moving in the flow, speaking and sharing intuitively. So if you ask me about a survival guide for Kundalini Awakening tomorrow, you'll likely get something different. But tonight, this is what I have for you. And then I'm going to open up the floor for others to share as well, to contribute to this guide. So we can think about our audience. Of course, it's all of us together, but maybe there's someone out there right now that's just had a Kundalini Awakening, yesterday. They don't know what's going on. What is this all about? What is happening to me? Why is my body acting this way? Why am I feeling this way? What do I do? How do I navigate all of this? How do I survive? So we can think about them as we share tonight and see, what might be beneficial for them. So the first point I have here is to just become familiar with what this process is all about, right? We've got the internet. We've got so many great resources and access to so much information. We've got to just start familiarizing ourselves with what's going on here. And that doesn't mean we're going to get all the answers, but we got to at least develop some sort of working model or working concept for what is happening to us as we go through this. Ideally, that means we move away from feeling confused as well as feeling victimized as if something is going wrong. So if we better come to understand this process, we'll start to see that this is a transformational process. It's been talked about in so many different ways throughout history, throughout many different spiritual traditions, throughout many different people have discussed this in so many different ways. But generally speaking, we see that there's these themes that this is a transformational process. Right? It's going to involve some difficulty, but it's going to involve growth. It's going to involve healing. It's going to involve purging and purification of things that no longer serve us, that we may be storing within our psyche, within our body, within our muscles. Perhaps you could look at it within our chakras, within our spiritual energy field, right? So all of that's going to get cleared and processed as we move towards deeper states of peace, deeper states of connection with others, with God, perhaps. Right? So these are some of the ways that you can familiarize yourself with what this process is about. It's not something going wrong that we have to solve or fix or correct or turn back on or somehow make it go back to normal. We have to follow through with this transformational process. We want to also recognize that this journey is now the most important aspect of your life, the most important theme and dimension of your life, right? It's not like something on the side that kind of happens on the weekends that we consider now and then. It's like This is everything now. And that doesn't mean that we neglect our jobs, our families, our bodies, our health, our purpose, our mission, whatever that may be. It's, in my view, it means that all that stuff is going to fall under the umbrella of our spiritual transformational process, of our Kundalini awakening, if you want to use that language, right? So, of course, you've got to be there for your family, but that's going to now somehow, in some way or another, be a part of your spiritual process, right? So, really acknowledging that, accepting it, moving into it, rather than pretending like this is something you can ignore and somehow get by not really giving it the proper attention that it needs. So for some, the Kundalini awakening journey in particular will become the main central theme because they may be experiencing such profound, challenging phenomena. You know, their body may be moving spontaneously. They can't they can't stop it. It's happening in such an obvious way, which is going to impede some of their life for some. They may be experiencing all sorts of energetic phenomena in the body, right? So it becomes very apparent that they have to put their attention on this process. So then we can say, okay, Kundalini awakening is, it's a major theme going on in my life. But for others, they may have a more gentle process, which doesn't have such pronounced phenomena. And so for those people, they can say, my spiritual journey is the most important thing in my life. My spiritual transformation is the most important thing in my life. Okay. So you don't have to become a quote unquote Kundalini person like me, right? This is just consumed my whole life. I'm a Kundalini person, right? But you don't have to be like that. You can say, yeah, I'm going through Kundalini awakening, but it's not too intense, it's not too pronounced. But my spiritual journey, my spiritual transformation, that's very important to me. And of course, all the other aspects of your life fall under that, right? So we don't neglect our worldly responsibilities, our worldly duties. We just see them as somehow connected to this process. So next, in order to survive, you want to establish some sort of environment within which to survive in. So I call this a container, right? It contains the process. It allows it to be held within a certain space to avoid it from spilling out of that space where it may not be manageable. So what that may look like is you have a particular time period using time, space, context, right? Structure. So you have a particular space, a time where you go to engage in very direct, focused spiritual practice, spiritual sadhana, to be with your process fully, to allow whatever's arising as you go through this process to arise, to carry out what it needs to carry out, and then to return back into the stillness from where it came. So this can look like going into your bedroom. For me, it was my bed. It became my quote unquote Bodhi tree, like the Buddha. He sat under the Bodhi tree. That was his container, right? It became like my cross, my crucifix, right? Like Christ on the cross. Now, I'm not saying I'm the Buddha. I'm not saying I'm like Jesus. I'm saying I took a piece out of their story and said, I can also take advantage of these very specific spaces within which they went through spiritual transformation. And so my bed became that space. And I said, in this bed, I'll feel whatever comes up. I'll be with it. I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to avoid it. I'll allow it to pass through my system, right? Knowing that I'm safe in my bed. I'm not going to run out on the street and make a big scene. I'm not going to involve other people unnecessarily in my process, you know? So that's what I did. I established a container. Now, of course, when I say I'm not going to involve other people, I mean, I'm not going to go out and yell at people, get angry with them because I'm processing some anger, right? So, of course, valuable to seek some support, help, community. If you have people to talk to that can accept you, can understand you, that's fantastic. I highly encourage it. That may be a therapist, maybe a friend on the spiritual path, maybe someone in the community, somebody you connect with online. Of course, very, very important to connect with others. But when we're in the container, we want to establish a certain agreement with ourselves that we're not going to spill things over unnecessarily onto other people as we go through this process, which can, of course, be quite messy. So find what spiritual practices resonate with you. Find which practices bring some relief. Find which practices feel right for you, make sense to you, your body responds well, that you're excited about, and go all in on them. Go all in on them. Every now and then I encounter somebody who says, hey, Brent, I found this practice. It works. I'm feeling better. It's removed a lot of difficulty in my life. Things are going quite well with this practice. And then they say, Brent, what else should I do? I say, go all in on the practice. If it's working for you, you're getting benefits out of it. Stop looking for other things to do and just go all in on this practice. dedicate a certain period of your life to this practice specifically, right? Sometimes I think people find things that work. They say, ah, this is working, it's effective. Ah, I need to somehow complicate things and go out and find like a whole array of practices to do. No, something works for you, go all in on it. Go all in on it. It may not work forever, right? But naturally, you'll see your journey will transform and evolve. But if something's working for you, go all in on it. And that may mean that as it gets as you go deeper with the practice, it can start to dig more things up. Things can start to get a little bit more challenging, and that may be why some people shy away from a very effective practice and are actually looking for something that's a little less effective. They're like, "Hey, this practice is working, but it's also digging things up for me to clear and heal. I don't like this. Let's go find some other practice that doesn't work as well." That may be on a subconscious level what they're looking for, but really have the courage, go all in on the practices that support you, be in your container, and move through whatever comes up, right? Remembering here that Kundalini awakening is not like some of these reductionist, hyper-masculine, uh, transcendental paths or traditions like non-duality or neo-Advaita that want to refer to this all as just an illusion, that don't want to honor this body, these emotions, this life here. We want to remember this body is the vessel that allows us to experience our spiritual awakening. Without this body, there is no spiritual awakening. Without this body, there is no experience of the transcendent. There is no experience of non-duality here as human beings in this life. So we want to honor this body fully, right? So integration, embodiment, being in the body, very, very important. And of course, that means we recognize that this body here is a temple for our spirit to reside in. So we must take care of this temple, right? And so it's very simple stuff here, just basic self-care, whatever that means for you. We all know about these things, but it's very, very important. Our body goes through so much as we go through this process. It's very taxing on our system. We're going to feel all sorts of things. And so we have to rest properly, right? That means proper sleep hygiene, right? Adjusting the temperature in your room, these types of things, getting off the screens before bed, ideally, if possible. Like for me right now, not really possible. This is Kundalini after dark. I got this big light in my face. But I'm not perfect, but I try and do my best as well, taking care of the body in gentle ways. So if you may have had an intense workout regimen, perhaps your body can't hold that routine any longer for the time being because it's undergoing so much. It might need more rest. Maybe just walking is what it takes. So finding the balance to support this temple, eating well, whatever that means for you. For some people, that means meat. For some people, that means no meat, right? Eating well, listening to your body, finding out what works for you, avoiding consuming things that don't really help you, that don't serve you, that are too stimulating, which this can mean substances, alcohol, caffeine, for example, other drugs. It can also mean media as well. Being mindful of what you consume, right? This body is a temple. If this body is taken care of, we can actually have a peaceful, smooth awakening process. We can abide in deep states of peace. But if this body isn't taken care of, it's going to be very challenging. And it's, you may be experience really incredible things, but intermittently because your body can't hold those high states because your body's not properly taken care of. So it's very, very important, very simple stuff, but very important. So be patient, be gentle with yourself, remembering that this journey is challenging, very, very challenging. It's not easy at all. We can acknowledge that and support one another through it. It takes time, right? This is not something we can get through instantly, right? Even if you had all the information on the intellectual level and the level of the mind, your body still has to go through this process. You can't rush it. It takes time. And so being very gentle with ourselves as we go through this, okay? We can't also figure it all out at once anyway. We can't get all the answers on an intellectual level all at once anyway, right? So we want to be very gentle with ourselves. It takes time. It takes time. And so some people may think, okay, I've got to figure this out next week, 2 weeks. Unfortunately, it's unrealistic. Give yourself outlooks of 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Consider that. How might your life change if you committed 10 years to this process wholeheartedly? Who would you be in a decade? Who would you be in 5 years, 20 years? What would be the outcome then? Of course, you can't get the full picture, but you can only imagine. But thinking in short term, it's not ideal, right? Sometimes there will be periods of rest that last years, just periods of rest, quietude after going through significant upheavals and purifications and all sorts of phenomena. And then there's just quietude and rest for 6 months, 3 months, years. And then maybe some next phase of your journey continues that is, equally as transformative or even more transformative. So we want to really zoom out and look at this journey as spending the rest of your life, right? So going back to that point I made about making this journey, what your life is all about now, the spiritual journey, right? It's a lifetime thing. It's lifetimes, right? So we can't rush this. We can't rush this. We really have to let go of any sense of time that has like, these like 2 weeks, 3 months, 2 months type timelines. Uh-uh. Right. Things are speeding up on the planet, that's for sure, but we want to be very gentle with ourselves, very gentle with ourselves as we go through this. We want to remember here that everything that arises as we go through this process, thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, memories, visions, all of this, whatever it is, it's all valid, all welcome here. Nothing is to be excluded as if there's something going wrong or bad. So negative emotion isn't meant to be somehow circumnavigated or avoided or suppressed, or we're not trying to get away from it or change it. Even a negative emotion, an uncomfortable emotion here is valid, right? Because it's part of the spectrum of light. All that is here in existence is light. It's all existing on a spectrum. This process of Kundalini awakening, of spiritual transformation, is trying to bring you into a state of oneness, of union with all that is, which means it must include those uncomfortable negative things like negative emotions. And so this process is bringing us into a point of spiritual maturation. Now, spiritual maturation, one simple way of looking at it is one that's spiritually mature is able to look at whatever's arising in their awareness without judgment, without preference, without attachment, without aversion, right? So if a negative emotion arises, this is an interesting part of the light arising in my awareness. It's not going to last forever. I can be with it, right? I can be with it. Don't have to push it away. It's going to dissolve on its own. Nothing lasts. It's all impermanent. Everything is constantly changing. So this is part of the work here. So when things are coming up, want to just be with them, be with what is. Find the place within you that is not pushing things away or pulling things towards you. Just find that place, rest there. And sometimes you will get caught up in attachment. You will get caught up in the drama of it all, and that's okay too. We go back to being gentle with ourselves. But ideally, you want to find the part of you that has no preference over what's arising within your system. It's all part of the oneness here. And paradoxically, when you end up in that place where when you're willing to feel whatever's coming up, no matter how uncomfortable, when you're truly willing to feel it, perhaps you even have the sentiment, I'll feel this forever. If this sensation lasts forever, for all of eternity, I'll be with it. No, that's fine, even if it's uncomfortable. When you get to that place, paradoxically, something opens up and then a deep peace arises that can be there forever with you, right? That's the paradox. You must be willing to feel everything. If you're willing to feel everything, then you get some very sustainable states of peace. Sometimes this process is so hard, you may want to give up. You may want to look around and say, what's the point? And so when we come to those sorts of experiences, we want to orient ourselves around some sort of higher purpose, some sort of mission, some sort of higher calling. You may not know necessarily what that is, right? But you want to recognize that the universe is very efficient. It puts people through this process, not so you can just sit in your room and keep it all to yourself, but so that you can, be of service in some way or another at this time on the planet when we do need lots of people being of service, of course. So that doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily become like a spiritual leader or something like this. Very possible, but not necessarily. It may just mean that you're going through this so you can be the best community member, the best family member, the best parent, right? Whatever it may be. And if that is enough to keep you going, well, then you must, remember that I'm going through this not just for myself, but it's for others, right? For others, right? So one person that is, remembering the light is so much more powerful than millions that have forgotten, right? And able to transform and heal the energetic fields of those that may have forgotten the light. One person can be so inspiring. So sometimes when you feel like giving up, remember that you're going through this not just for yourself, but for the world, for other people, for the people in your life. So you can kind of use that to keep you going. And of course, around that, then you can begin to make sense of why this is happening to you. Some of your gifts may come online, right? You may be able to make sense of why some of your childhood or earlier years went the way they did. You may begin to recognize certain themes because you can look at it as if you were being initiated the whole time towards this higher mission, this higher purpose, right? Sometimes you may see that all of the jobs that you happen to have throughout your life are all training for, some sort of higher purpose now that is, becoming very clear for you, right? So you can begin to contemplate your life around this idea of a mission or a purpose, right? Remembering here to acknowledge your wins, acknowledge your blessings. Sometimes I'll encounter people, they say, Brian, my Kundalini awakening is so challenging. It's so difficult. Every day there's pain. It's so hard. There's some peace, but there's a lot of difficulty, a lot of pain. And I say, wait, hold up. What about this peace? Right? Well, let's talk about the peace. They're like, yeah, there's peace. I've never felt peace like this before. But anyway, the pain, the pain, the pain. It's interesting that people will sometimes overlook some of the wins, some of the blessings that they've been given, right? Peace, profound peace is something pretty significant that not everybody experiences in such a way that some of us may begin to experience. And so if you have some wins like this, cherish them, contemplate them, appreciate them, acknowledge them, right? See if you can shift your focus towards some of the positive things and not always on the challenges. That can make a big, big difference, make a big, big difference and help you to orient yourself around this process, acknowledging that it is a transformational process, not a curse, not a curse, right? Remembering here as well that your belief systems are going to change, right? So don't overlook some of the profound experiences that you have. Contemplate them deeply. If you have had a significant spiritual awakening, a significant shift energetically in your system. What does this mean in terms of the way that you understand reality? What does this mean in terms of your beliefs about reality? You have to sit with this and contemplate it. And it may take some time to reprocess reality through your new lens, to reprocess your understanding of who you are, why you're here, what's going on here, of your potential, of your power, of what's possible, right? You're going to have to reprocess all of that through this new information. That takes time. It's challenging. There will come some beliefs that are very rigid, very hard to let go of. And you may experience cognitive dissonance because on one hand, you're saying, yeah, I'm feeling this incredible support from the universe. But then on the other hand, I've been told my whole life that, life is a scary place and we have to really struggle, right? So things like that are going to come up and you're going to have to work through them. So take some time and note that your belief systems are going to change. It's going to be uncomfortable at times, but when we integrate a new set of beliefs or a new set of trust and faith and knowing about what's really going on here from our new experiences, it's very profound. It's very profound to live in this new way. This is what it means to me, at least, to live in a higher dimension. People talk about living in 5D consciousness, right? The shift from the 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness is a shift in beliefs as well. It's a shift energetically in the system, but also in a shift in one's beliefs about what reality is and what's possible. And that takes some time. It can be quite challenging, but it's very important to honor those shifts in beliefs. Before completing my notes here, 4 words came to me. They were to breathe, right? One breath at a time, one breath at a time. When it's difficult, just one breath at a time. Breathe, honor this body. The body's breathing. Be with it. Be with it. The inhale, the exhale, right? If you lose everything, you forget everything, you don't know what's going on, the breath. The word breath comes from the word spirit. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? So you could forget all of the information. All of this, just be with the breath. It will take you wherever you need to go, right? The next word that came to me was to move. Move the body, move the energy, be moved by the energy as well, right? This is a dynamic process, dynamic energy. This is the Kundalini Shakti, right? The feminine. She moves. She's not still. So move with her. Allow her to move you, right? Emotions will come up. Be moved by nature. Be moved by music, by art, by relationships, whatever it may be. Feel it all. Rest, right? It's very, very important. Our culture does not have a good relationship with rest, right? It's almost like something seen as, if you're lazy or something to feel guilty about, but really rest. Many of us have worked lifetimes, very hard, coming to this point where we go through a significant energetic shift within the body. We purge so much, right? We work so hard. Rest, right? No guilt, rest. The last word that came to me was to relate. Relate with other people about this process so you don't feel alone, so you gather more wisdom and insight. Share what you've learned with others that are going through this process, right? But also relate with a higher power, right? Relate with a higher power. It's not a higher power out there somewhere in the sky. It's a higher power, higher meaning higher than your mind, higher than your ego, right? It's not separate from you, though. It's still you, but you relate with it in the heart, right? And this relationship can be emotional. It can come through prayer, it can come through contemplation, it can come through spending time in nature, right? But relate, because that's what this process is about. It's trying to bring you into union with this higher power. So we begin to relate with it and we find that it was us the whole time. It was us the whole time. So I'll pause there. I hope I've sparked some ideas in you. I see some people are sharing in the chat here. I'm going to prioritize those on the call that would like to contribute to this Kundalini Awakening survival guide. Maybe you've got some tales of things that you've gone through on your journey that you'd like to share. Maybe you found some interesting ways to move through this process, whether it be a technique, a practice, a mindset, an approach. Maybe it's just words of encouragement as well. Keeping in mind that idea of the person that just went through Kundalini Awakening yesterday and doesn't know what's going on, what would you say to them? What do you wish somebody would have said to you during the early days of your process? So you can share on the call, you can share an audio or video, you can type in the chat as well. I thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for your support, your donations, your engagement. Check out all the links in the description for some more. You can join us for the next Kundalini After Dark. Join us for the next Kundalini Q&A meeting as well. Links are in the description. We're here to let this conversation breathe, let it just be alive and see where it goes. All is welcome here, okay? Thank you all so much for being here. So let's hear from Samia.
Thanks, Brett. Hey, family. Hope all is well.
Hey,
Can you hear
Samia.
me? Can you
Yeah,
hear
thanks
me?
for being here.
Okay, yeah. It's good to be back. I took a little vacation off work and I work overnight, so I just missed this meeting a lot. So it's good to be back. Um, I'm thinking back, because it's been going on for a couple years as well for me. Um, the basics I can think back to for the survival guide is definitely find community. That was it was the first thing, and thank God you had YouTube videos out that I could watch. And then I started with this community years ago, and I just was like, thank goodness. Because it's a process where not everybody's going to understand. Um, I the movement practices. Um, I mean, you go through all the different stages, where the most intense is where sometimes you're not sleeping, so you have to switch things up. Work wise, my best advice was, I did jobs late night, overnight, so I wasn't around a lot of people. Um, uh, I worked in like a restaurant type of place where people, it's 24 hours, people drank. So there was so much going on around me that people didn't notice what I was going through as well. I highly suggest you don't do any mind altering substances. No ayahuasca journeys. I have a whole Bufo 8, 9 day adventure that I went through because of my community awakening. But it was a blessing because it kind of blasted me open. But likewise, it was the scariest thing that I went through. So I suggest no mind altering substances if you can. It makes you quit smoking, it makes you change your diet. But it made me got back into movement, which I'm very happy about. I call it, I got the Shakti body, where I was getting prayers and shaking so much. But after a while, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym and work out. Okay, I'm going to dance this out. And now I gotten to a point where I have this beautiful, I channel dance with the Kiras, and it's awesome. Like, it moves to the music. Like, I have a good old time. So, eventually I'm probably going to do something online with that to help other people that go through this. But I've learned, and that cultivated from, it's funny, that cultivated from when I used to go to work, and I was like, please, if you just wait till I get out of work, you can shake all you want. You can shake all you want. Yeah, you can shake. You want to move. You want to, do a mantra, whatever you want. But just please wait till I get out of work. And the energy, we had this agreement because I learned this from you, Brad, to have a container. And I used to be at home, but sometimes, you'd be out and about. So that's what it did. The energy, helped me and listened to me. So I would get into the car, and by the time I get into the car, I would start shaking in the car, like the gears would come out and everything else. And after a while, I would have music on and it would just kind of bop to the music. And I was like, this is pretty dope. Okay. So I started cultivating that. And when I get home, I do movement practices because slow movement, or if you like to dance, or, even slow yoga, it assists with moving the energy. And it felt so good. So now it's a game with me, and I cultivated that as well. But it's just finding out what works for you. At first, working out a lot worked for me and lifting weights, and it got to a point where my Kundalini was so active and it just joints in my body. I couldn't do the same thing I had to do, so I had to switch it up and do yin yoga for a while, and maybe do some yoga nidra. And it got to a point where my kid was so bad I couldn't do yoga nidra, so I had to switch it up again and be like, okay, I have to take a break from meditating long terms and just do walk from meditation or write or journal. And then I couldn't really journal because I get the flashback. So I had to switch it. But I learned, I was taught to pivot and not whatever worked for the period of time it worked, and it worked great. And when it didn't start working, I just kind of had to pivot. Likewise, I didn't do a lot of social media. Um, not at all. I became basically kind of a hermit as much as I best I could, and watched limited things and took in limited things and sometimes limited information on this Kundalini process. If you take too much in from everywhere, coming everywhere, you kind of put yourself into a little tailspin. I put myself into a little tailspin, and I had to learn that, okay, I need to ground. Taking some information sometimes. Sometimes I couldn't come to these beautiful meetings because it was just too overwhelming with the energies you just feel everybody energy and time taking everything in. So sometimes I had to take a break, or sometimes not even put my camera on. But other things like I learned Reiki, or I got involved in free Reiki groups online where you can do meetup and not put your screen on and just lay there and take part in Reiki shares. That's free. Definitely being out in the sun helps sometimes. Being if you can get to a pool and movement practices like that. My practices have changed over times where I could meditate and now I do TM meditation. But it's a journey of self-discovery. Um, I've I've learned so much about myself. I basically went through every fear that I can think of humanly possible in the last 2.5 years. And it has made me a very solid, strong, sovereign being, the strongest I've ever been in my life. And as the energies calm down and I integrate, and I don't make the Kundalini process the story anymore, it's not this forefront anymore. It's kind of in the background. It's still there, yes, every day. But I've noticed little blessings and little abilities, other abilities come up, like my clairsentience is right on, and I can sense things a mile away, and really cool things start happening. I guess when the fear kind of subsides and you trust the process and you trust your body and you trust yourself, and it just takes time. Journaling has been key in this process. And I first started with the journaling with taking a picture of maybe a card I pull or something, one thing I wrote or a sentence. That's how it is. Now I get to the day where I have two or three different types of journaling apps, and I made ChatGPT, maybe other journaling prompts so I can do these deep dives. And it has been a process that is brilliantly done. Like I see insight, I can go in deeper, I can get feedback that I like, and then I work with it. So AI is pretty good with this process as well. And I didn't know how to use ChatGPT at all. Now I'm doing journal prompts and everything else. So it's really cool. So this process, all in all, has taught me that I'm stronger than I ever was. Um, Even in the darkest times, and I just had some darkest times not too long ago because I'm not sleeping because of this job. But even in the darkest time, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't. And I've cried, I've been in fear, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because I just feel this is greater than me. This is greater than me. I signed up for it one way or the other. And I know when I get through this process, I'm going to help anybody else that I can possibly can in any way I can with this process as well. So I take it as a blessing. I'm honored in being with this group, and I'm honored for this awakening. And I thank y'all for letting me share. Appreciate it.
Samia, thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a little while since you've been here in the community and you've come back with like an incredible level of clarity and confidence and gifts and wisdom. Wow, like your energy is like just really solid, solid and clear to me. Thank you so much for those really valuable points. And yeah, it looks like you were just channeling freestyle there, but you gave us so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.
Mm. Yeah, namaste. Yeah, Allison shares here, the pivot is everything. Nice to have a list of ideas somewhere that's visible when you're out of it. Yeah, pivoting for sure. Yeah. Can help also when you're feeling stagnant. Sometimes you've got to mix it up in a sense. Got to mix it up, right? If a practice is working, absolutely go all in on it, like I was sharing. But yeah, sometimes you've got to try some things you may have never explored before, like for example, prayer. If you never prayed, it may not even be something you feel like you'd ever do. I felt like that. I'm like, I'll never pray again. But eventually you just say, hey, let's try this. And it starts to feel really good if it's almost like you find prayer in a new way. For example, yeah. So pivoting, right? Great stuff. So much value there. Hugo shares here. It's interesting that Kundalini is dissolving the one who is trying to survive. The director stepping in to replace the character, the separate one. The classic game of cat and mouse or hide and seek. The director will prevail. Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Let's hear from Tom.
Good evening.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, and yeah, it's good to be back. See you back. I just was taking a few notes about the first thing I came to was like prepare yourself if you're interested in yoga, if it doesn't happen by accident in some way. Read as much as you can by, or as much as you can find it by people who've gone through and had this experience. One place is here, but everyone here has had the experience. So for outsiders, I would refer them to the videos and stuff, and try to get familiar with what you may be getting into because I was not ready for what happened in the way it happened. I was kind of ready, but I'd done a lot of reading and stuff, but wasn't it's like I wrote in the chat. It's like trying to trying to describe what it's like to be high on weed when you've never smoked weed. It's impossible, or try describing the color blue. Good luck. Um, the other thing is you might, if you're, if you've gotten, if it's happened though, and you've got a mantra given to you by a guru, and it's a Chaitanya mantra, which is an enlivened mantra, a mantra which is actually, well, aware of itself as a living thing. Stick with that mantra and don't go hunting for new mantras. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. You've got to mix metaphors, you've got a perfectly outlined path. It's been done with thousands of people in the past, thousands of years ago, right to the present. The language might change a bit, but the map is accurate, and you're going to otherwise, who knows what you're going to encounter if you go running after some, guy who calls himself an enlightened guru, and he really is not. He just wants to entice people into foolish things. Don't make up your own religion. It's all there. You can grab one up, or if you want to make one up, but just make sure there's no evil in it. Like drop all that. Yeah, the other thing is when you've been given gifts, um, don't talk about them too much with people who don't understand because they'll be scared, they'll be afraid of you for one thing. Then I've noticed that even someone who I'm still in contact with, she's really afraid of me, and she received a day of bliss because she hung out with me, and the next day Shakti had jumped into her and given her this wonderful gift of a whole day of blissfully going through her day with all the arguments and all the crap. She was in business, a restaurateur, all the things that happen if any of you have worked in a restaurant, and yet nothing had bothered her. She got through the whole thing without ever getting angry. She just recognized what was going on and dealt with it. It was beautiful, but she uh, she had her own way of doing things and didn't want to do it in the way I was like. I'll tell you what. If I have another moment, I'll tell you what happened with her. Months later, I mean, I'd been trying to get her to meditate with the mantra that I'd been given, and maybe get her own, receive Shakti, but from a enlightened or self-realized guru. And so, in a vision meditation, I walked up a path and came to a very tall stone wall, had a gate in it, and I pulled the key out of my pocket and opened the lock, walked through, and then I looked out through the gate, which wasn't, it was like a, not a solid gate. It had uh, steel rods, like you know what I mean, kind of an
Mhm.
ornate thing. And I saw her coming to the same place, to a different gate, and she had a key as well. And I thought, this is wonderful. She couldn't put the key in the lock. It wouldn't fit in the lock. It wouldn't fit in. I said, use the key that I gave you. If you use the one you got, use the one that you got. Use the one I gave you. And my guru appeared in this beautiful garden with me and said, you gave her the key, but she threw it away.
Mm.
And that was the last, that then the whole thing faded. But she'd been going on. She was one person who was very strong-willed, i.e. stubborn, who thought she knew better than anyone else. And she went off and did her own thing. Well, it didn't work. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty well all I want to say, except enjoy the journey when you're on it. Like, find peace in it. And I think all what Brent said in his introduction about finding a sacred space, perfect. Anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom. Brilliant. Yeah. It's interesting, sometimes people do have really profound, beautiful experiences like what you were sharing, Tom, that she experienced bliss. But I think, like I was sharing before, like that challenges a person's entire belief system about reality and whatnot. It can be very destabilizing. But of course, if you have courage to contemplate what that means about what's possible, well, then you can benefit. But if you try to run, well, no benefits for you per se. Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's hear from Allison.
So I really like what you say about making a container for yourself and not reacting in the moment, because I learned a lesson this week. And thankfully it turned out the way it did. But up until now, every purge that I've had has been a lesson that's propelled me forward because I've reacted. So my lesson, I think, has been to set boundaries, speak my truth, honor myself. That's been my lesson throughout this whole thing. So in reacting, I've been forced to do the things that I've never done before. So it's been up until now, a learning tool for me to teach me how to do these things. But now I feel like I have that down pat. And I had just a normal purge recently. It lasted maybe an hour or two. And this might be the first purge that I've had that hasn't been like a lesson to teach me how to, you know, live my truth or whatever. It was just a normal purge. It lasted maybe an hour or two, but I almost messaged my brother to essentially tell him that he's an asshole. Like I was so ready. And I thought at the time that it was a lesson for me to speak my truth, but I've already spoken my truth with him once and I don't need to do it more than once. And after that hour, I realized there's nothing there's nothing that I need to do. That all of those emotions just needed to be released. And now that they're gone, I feel totally neutral about the whole thing. So I'm so glad that I did not react in that hour, that I was ready to like rip him a new one over I don't know what, our whole life. Like, 'cause I don't even know what it was about. It was just like our whole life, all the anger, it just came up in 1 hour. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna use that tool moving forward now that I've experienced it firsthand and seen that I could have caused a lot of unnecessary drama.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much. I remember being completely blown away by having a similar experience. You know, I had some emotions coming up relating to other people. I went in my space and I felt those emotions. And on the other side of feeling them, it lasted maybe an hour. I felt better. And there was nothing that I wanted to talk to them about. And I thought, this is incredible. All I did was deal with this by myself in my room. And now it seems like as if the problem with this other person has been resolved, even though I had no communication with them. Super empowering.
Yeah, that's exactly my experience. So anyway, so I've learned a lesson, and what you said is very valid, and I'm gonna use that moving forward.
Amazing. Amazing.
Mhm. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you. And of course, communication is important. We are not saying, never don't talk to people anymore. Like, yeah, but we want to communicate from a place where you're regulated, you have clarity, you're going into it with consciousness, not going into it impulsively, just, completely dysregulated, letting your emotions run the show, because then it gets very messy. And likely, the person is not going to be in a position to receive whatever it is you have to say and talk about it with you in a mature way. It's going to get messy, right? So communicate, but take time, breathe. That's probably the best way of doing it. And what one day it really hit me, I said, if people have angered me, if I think the only way of resolving it is going and having an argument with them or hearing their sorry or hearing their empathy or their apology, I'm really in trouble. Because what if somebody that's angered me dies? How am I supposed to get an apology from them if they're dead? And that made me think there has to be another way to work through this stuff. And of course there is. And that's what we're talking about here. That's what Allison was sharing. We can feel it on our own and it will clear up and we'll be okay. It's an incredible thing to discover, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, Allison. Yeah. And your shares here. You speak your truth once and don't need to keep repeating yourself. Yeah. That's great. Okay. Let's hear from Blue Star.
Hey there. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. My awakening started over 30 years ago. And the things I would like to share that I found very helpful for me is I think the number one thing for me is learning that it's not a linear process. And a lot of times there's like a checklist that people kind of break out and go, oh, I'm supposed to go into bliss. I'm supposed to experience this. I'm supposed to have this great compassion. But it's not linear at all. And for me, the compassion doesn't come in until the end. And I feel like it's also based on not how many, it's based also on how many times in other lifetimes we've also had a Kundalini awakening and raised the serpent. So the experience that we have in this lifetime is, yeah, it's a collective experience of all the other awakenings that we've had. Um, the other thing is, uh, no two awakenings are the same. And I find it also depends on your energetic awareness and your perception and how that kind of will reveal the experience that you have. If you're very tuned into your inner worlds and you are very energetically aware, your experience could be totally vivid in the inner worlds. And I find also there's it can be a fusion, not only of Eastern, but of Western traditions. And my awakening was what I would call a Christo Kundalini awakening. So there was Eastern elements, there's Western elements, and I experienced waking into the world of mysticism and specifically Christian mysticism, but also many other kinds of lineages, mystical lineages. And a couple of other things I would mention is I found it very helpful to have a good guide. And especially 30 years ago, nobody, there was no internet. So just even finding someone that knew about it was, that was tough. And I would say most all organizations that purport to know about Kundalini don't. So, uh, like yoga teachers or, spiritual guides or retreats, many of these people, many of the mystery schools, the people who attend there or the teachers, they don't know what a Kundalini awakening looks like. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. Um, I feel it's really important to know how to move the energy through your system and through your chakras. That's going to save you a lot of heartache and pain if you can move the energy through your system and refresh your energy system every day. Because since we're detoxing, we get a buildup of negative energies just being out in the world, and it's dense and it's dark. And and if we're awakened, we become more and more aware of the entities and dark forces that we're occupying space with. So a lot of the pressures and headaches that we have, I find as I am an energy healer, and that's my authentic expression. But many of the headaches, the pains, the darkness uh, is alleviated when we are able to refresh our system, like through exercise, movement, some type of self-clearing process. And grounding, grounding, grounding. Grounding is your friend. And the spiritual buffet. It reminds me a lot of Raiders of the Lost Ark when the guy is out there and the tsunami of locusts is coming and he's pulling out all his spiritual symbols, It's I do feel like, as Brent said, it's just good to find one framework of a system and stick with it long enough so that you can realize the benefits of it. And yeah, and then lastly, with your friends and family, I'd say find a really good video or a movie that you can just have them watch so that you don't have to try to figure out how to communicate it. And then they can have some more understanding about it. And oh, yeah, something else. Early on in my awakening, you can really have a big, massive blow up in your ego. The ego can really become huge. And then if you are blessed with a lot of spiritual gifts from your awakening, it's very easy to roll around in the vanity of your spiritual gifts. So I just say keep it all in mind and learn to just mediate everything. Um, and in my case, my process was very sped up. I thought I was going to go insane. I thought I was going to become a babbling bag lady on the side of the road. So it's helpful to not do things that require intense concentration of the mind, the focus of the mind, because that will accelerate and speed up. It's like rocket fuel for the process. So those that's been my experience. Thank you.
Blue Star, thank you so much. So much incredible wisdom there from over 30 years of the journey. Thank you. Yeah, so much value there. A few things that jumped out at me. I like how you describe, this is not a linear process. It's not a linear process. We're not operating in, 3D time and space. This is a spiritual process. It transcends all of that. It can't be linear, right? So people are going to have a very unique experience. The energy is going to move in different directions. It's going to move at different rates, different frequencies. So we don't want to compare ourselves too closely to others. We're going to find others, connect with them, relate with them, but comparing, um, not typically helpful. Yeah, some great tips for managing the energy as well in their Blue Star, grounding, moving the energy. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much. Samia shares here in the chat as well. Community is key. Be kind to yourself. Stay a sovereign being. Learn or find groups that offer free healing modalities. She shares that what assisted me was Reiki, light language, channeling dance. Make a safety plan with one or two people that you trust and that you know. It's great as well, especially if you're, feeling like you may hurt yourself or harm yourself. Find the beauty, the magic, and wonderment of this crazy life we live. Stay in your heart space. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, so Tracy shares here. I'd love people's suggestions for suitable videos to show family to help them understand the Kundalini awakening experience. So, I mean, if somebody has some others, please share. I'll share a presentation that I did with Spiritual Awakenings International called Kundalini Awakening, Overcoming Common Challenges. So this is like, I'm not saying it's the best video out of all the videos about Kundalini on the internet, but out of all of mine, I think it's one of my more polished presentations, um, where I kind of structured it in a way where I explain, what this is, some of the common challenges, some of the difficulties, as well as the solutions. And so you can explore that as well. I mean, it's great for anybody who would like to watch. Of course, I'm tooting my own horn here, but that could be somewhere to start. Okay, let's hear from Naima.
Hello. Um, I wanted to respond to something that you said earlier about preparing for your beliefs to change because I feel like I've been going through a lot of shedding a lot of layers and kind of looking back and seeing what has changed with me. Um, People in my immediate reality are reflecting back to me states of being that I used to be. And one of the things recently that I just kind of realized or noticed that just changed and kind of changed a little bit and slowly over time, it kind of crept up on me. Um, I I guess I used to, I don't know, different spiritual beliefs or practices, to different tools. And just think of things like, I don't know, tarot or angel numbers or astrology, things like that. I used to be pretty, I guess, heavy into it or, believed in it or made it very important in my life. And recently I have a person in my life who's just started to explore spirituality and those different beliefs or practices. She's reading a lot and talking to me about it. And it's kind of hard to engage now because I don't find those things that important anymore. Um, and I don't know, it just kind of surprised me because it used to be, kind of a bigger part of my life, and now it's not. And I don't really know what to do about that. Not that there's anything to do, but it's feels kind of weird because she'll come and talk to me about it. And it's like, how do I say, like, I don't really care too much about that stuff anymore? I've just kind of been more present in being,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
and observing.
Mhm.
And yeah. I mean, it feels good to kind of see your growth, but at the same time, it's kind of like awkward, you know? Um,
Yeah.
because I don't really know what to do in this like in between time, or that used to be something that we related to with one another and now we don't. So um yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know. I just wanted to share. That's it. That's one of the things I've noticed that have recently changed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, we will go through these phases and shifts, sometimes very rapidly as we go through the journey. Of course, in the beginning, you may be into more mundane things like, I don't know, sports or something, and that's nothing wrong with sports, but maybe then you find that, spirituality becomes your thing and sports aren't so interesting. Then, of course, we can continue to move beyond even spirituality. Certain spiritual themes become less interesting to us. And then we find ourselves, like Naima was sharing, just wanting to just be still, be in silence. And then even the spiritual stuff, you know, can get a little uninteresting at times. Yeah. Yeah. It's completely valid. I've had similar experiences as well. I guess what happened to me was I'm happy to talk about whatever with people, um, acknowledging that everyone's on their journey. Sometimes they don't necessarily need to hear your opinion or whatever. Maybe they just need to have a space and a person like you that isn't going to tell them they're crazy. Maybe that's what they're looking for, they need. I don't really know. I know it's a very challenging thing to go through. Yeah, especially when the silence becomes so satisfying. You just want to sit in the silence. Yeah, it's challenging. But I hope that for anybody that's going through something like that, it levels out. Yeah, and I guess they ask you for your input and ask you questions as well, Naima. Yeah. Maybe you got to shoot them down and tell them what you really think, or let them know that, hey, I mean, my take on Taro's, pretty cool. There's definitely some really gifted tarot readers, but my take on it is you don't need the cards. Just leave the cards behind. Go directly to your intuition. You'll get what you need. Maybe that's what people
Oh,
need to hear.
yeah, definitely. I'm not saying any of those things were not helpful in my journey. Obviously it was, and I do love tarot, but I agree. It's just kind of like, I I'm more so into just creating your future rather than trying to figure it out before it happens. Like it doesn't matter, like why are you trying to look to see what's about to happen? Just make sure you create just you'll know you'll be more accurate with your future if you're just more intentional about it. So
Mm,
it doesn't really mean or matter that much to me to see or to peek or to pry. It's like you already know what's going to happen because you're being very intentional about it,
mm,
and just kind of surrendering. So it's like, and I don't know, kind of unnecessary to me at this point. So yeah.
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it looks like we evolve beyond certain paradigms and tools and ideas and it's like sometimes the rules change or they shift or we find a new level. Um, yeah, yeah. It's challenging sometimes to connect with others that are still navigating some of those other stuff that we may have um exhausted in a sense. Yeah. Let's hear from Blue Star. Thanks, Naima. Oh,
Yeah, I really enjoyed what you were saying. I think what is also happening is we are our whole neurological network is totally rewiring on so many levels, and we are rewiring to be able to comprehend greater cosmic concepts. So, uh, things that are of the mundane, that's kind of been rewired out of our system. And the other thing is, we just have to know our audience, because four-fifths of the people out there are not going to be open to hearing, what you're going through or your experience. The other thing is, as we go through the process, we're bringing many new energy systems online. Our whole DNA, we're stepping up to 12 strands and more. We're bringing more systems online, and our whole system is leveling up to be able to handle greater and greater amounts of light and containing higher levels of light. And the light in our system is going to, the light has an intelligence, and it knows our healing priority. And we want to be able to contain more and more in our system. And as we level up in our process, we contain more and more, and then that in turn gives us more access and connection to higher cosmic frequencies. So I would say, yeah, as far as relating to people, we're totally being rewired for bigger cosmic concepts. So the things that we used to be into no longer resonate with us. And so we just relate as best we can.
brilliant. Thanks for explaining it on a really deep level about some of these changes we're going through, Blue Star. Yeah. Ronald here shares, just like DNA, Kundalini is a unique process, even though it may share commonalities. It's a spiral unwinding, a force of evolution. It can feel like psychosis at first. Unfortunately, some have undergone this and are misdiagnosed with mental illness. I think you also have to have a stable enough ego to undergo this. There are different types of Shaktipat and Diksha, and depending on how it hit you, that affects the unwinding process. Light does seem to be universal in this. Yeah, brilliant ideas here, Ronald. Yeah, thank you for sharing here. Yeah, I like this comparison to DNA. It's a spiral unwinding, a force of evolution. It's poetic. Molly shares here, perhaps it's like being with a puppy. My puppy loves his toys, while on streets, plays biting games. I don't like biting games at all, but I still love my puppy. He is exhausting, but I'm learning to just be myself and let him play along with me while being a puppy himself. I like that. Yeah. 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 And it's like that with kids too, right? I talk to a kid about, I don't know, cars or whatever, superheroes. I don't care about that stuff particularly, but we can talk to them about it, play along with them. But of course, we don't want to abandon ourselves and, not honor like the parts of us that don't want to engage in things that we may have evolved beyond. Yeah. It's a very tricky place to be. Angel shares here, the Divine Mother has always directed me to go inside and to trust the process whenever people would speak to me about astrology or tarot. Yeah. Useful tools, but direct insight seems to be the most powerful, at least in my experience, directly from the source. And Allison shares here that she relates very much. We're all in our various seasons, and sometimes the current one involves not indulging others' things. Yeah. Let's hear from Courtney.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah.
My heart's beating out my chest, but I really want to share. A lot has been happening to me the past few weeks, and perhaps the most profound spiritual experience happened to me last Thursday. It was my first time experiencing um, mudras, spontaneous movements. I'm still learning the terms, I'm still new to this, but as you said, to begin with a practice, my bed is my safe place. And I just laid down. And despite all the bad that has been happening, um, the first thing I did is just give thanks. That's how I always start, is to give thanks. I think that's very important. Even if it's bad, it's still good. And to always give thanks throughout it all, because it's all for the higher collective consciousness. Um, and I began the mudras and began receiving downloads. And it's funny, it's two major ones relate to things that you have said earlier on the call. I got just a very clear download that our bodies are purely intelligent receptors. Like that is what our bodies are. Every part is just to receive and be open. That's I was the download was like, that is what our purpose is. And sorry, I'm nervous. Another download is when I don't know what to call it, channeling or receiving downloads, mudras. I was just speaking and crying immensely, just gratitude, thankfulness. And I was given that I just began speaking. If and doing these weird hand motions, like it looked like I was like punching buttons and stuff. And I received if this is the only thing that I do for the rest of my life while I was receiving, sorry, it's emotional.
Yeah.
If this is the only thing that I can do for the rest of my life, this is enough. What was happening in that moment, I knew was enough that it was it was doing something beyond me. It was not me. I was being used. And is the proper word receiving downloads and channeling?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And that was very important to me, because I always feel like, what can I be doing? I want to help others. I have so much potential. I know I will, but in this moment, and I just heard like, this is enough. What is happening right now? What you are doing right now in this moment, which is just receiving and speaking, was enough. And so that was one of the most profound spiritual experience last Thursday. My second most profound happened today. And all I'm going to say is that I received the goddess of Lalita, who I had no idea who she was until today. Research her if you're interested. She is the goddess of divine play. So I can write a book just on an hour that happened today, on that experience. And I want to get it all out. I want, like, this needs to be shared. Another download I received on Thursday is that if anyone were to see me and what was happening to me and going crazy like that, they would, like, it's so hard because we can't just share. I recorded it. I have an hour recording of it, so I could go back and listen myself and write down what I was saying and reflect and integrate it. And if I were to show anybody that video, that I would be like a schizophrenic crazy. I would have my child taken away from me. And it's so sad that we can't share that truth, the truth, the this Kundalini. Like, I'm so happy that we have this right here, just so I could share it with you, all of you. I want to share it with the world, but like we can't. Like the world's not ready. So um accepting that the world's not ready, all the world's not ready, accepting that it's okay that some people will never be ready, accepting that you're chosen for a reason to do this work, to heal and to raise humanity's vibrations, frequency, energy, consciousness. Those were my major downloads. And then the three like basic tips I have, I already mentioned, just even if it's bad, it's good. For instance, I fractured my toe going into church last Sunday or last Sunday. I don't go to church. I haven't been to church in years. I'm on my way to church and I'm tripping a hole and fracture my toe. I'm like, God, what are you telling me? And the AC broke in my house and it's 90 degrees Louisiana summer, dying. And so, but on that Thursday, when I felt called to go in my place of solitude and just began thanking despite the bad, it's still good. Um, those two things. And then grounding sheets. A few people mentioned grounding, so important, walking barefoot in grass, but grounding sheets are life-changing. I They're amazing because they work. There's different types. Definitely recommend that. They they work so well. I have the most vivid imagination and dreams. When I sleep on a grounding sheet, I don't recall any dreams. I can't remember anything. It's that powerful. It's like the deepest sleep you'll ever get. So I would recommend that. And that's all.
Amazing. Courtney, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really palpable energy sharing. You're sharing. It's interesting that you said, you're new to this, and then you just went and dropped like some really profound wisdom on us.
It's so
Yeah,
go moving so fast.
yeah,
Everything.
yeah. Yeah, some of us are on very accelerated journeys, lots of energy moving through. So I'm so happy that you mentioned how grounding has been effective for you, especially with all that's coming through, the downloads, the energy moving through, finding ways to balance it, hold it in the body, integrate it, embody it. Really powerful stuff. And I love that wisdom. Even if it's bad, it's good. It's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, amazing, amazing. And yeah, you're using the language correctly and know, channeling, downloads. EE shared here in the chat, that you're like a conduit.
Mhm.
Yeah, receiving is we can have so many different language, so many different ways of describing it. Yeah, but you've shared some really profound stuff with us. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, and it is emotional, right? This is what this journey is about. It's about the body. It's all emotional. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Gratitude is such a powerful emotional experience, and it's an invitation for more to feel grateful for. That's what it seems. That's what it seems like you were describing. Yeah. EE asks in the chat, what grounding sheets do you have? Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about them?
Just one's on Amazon. There's some on Amazon. No specific brand. I'm not that knowledgeable on it, but
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Follow the flow. Grounding sheets. Very cool. I just a couple of days ago I went camping, so slept pretty much on the ground and just tuned into the feeling of sleeping on the ground, the earth and how it holds you physically. There was like a very palpable energetic component to it. Really powerful. I hadn't gone camping in a while. So I don't think I've been as energetically sensitive as I am now. So this time I went, it was like really profound. Yeah, really profound. Very cool stuff, Courtney. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, connecting with us all, for sharing, supporting one another. It's a pretty solid Kundalini Awakening survival guide that we created, I think. Just winging it together. We put something together that hopefully others tune in to and get some value out of. I appreciate everyone's support, all of your donations, your likes, your comments, your shares. It means a lot. It really, really does. Thank you so much. I've got my course, Grounded, Spiritual Emergence and Integration, is 8 hours of video content there to support you as you navigate some of the difficulty of this process. We go a lot into embodiment and integration and how to bring your awakened consciousness into the world. Right? There's some shadow work exercises, lots of value there. I've got some one-to-one support meetings available as well. You can check my calendar on my website. It's a few different rates, flexible, sliding scale, depending on your budget. I know it's difficult for people to sometimes get the funds together, and some available to support. You can check that out. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, we have a Kundalini Q&A meeting. Join us. Those are always fun. Check out kundaliniawareness.org, where we have a directory of licensed mental health professionals there to support you. Check it all out. Appreciate you all so much. Quincy shares here. I just have to mention that over the past month, the Hanuman Chalisa has been miraculous for me. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the few times that I've heard it, and I've heard that a lot of people experience really profound things exploring this mantra, the Hanuman Chalisa. Maybe it's not maybe technically it's not a mantra. I guess it's a Chalisa. I don't know what the difference is, but you get what I mean. Check it out. Thanks for bringing that up, Quincy. Really powerful. And Noemi shares a beautiful goddess here in the chat. Dipali shares here about some things that have helped her on the path. They've been breath work, coaching with Brenta. Thank you. Prayer, friendships, growing my faith, grounding, meals, self-care as much as possible. Some supplements that help with relaxation, gentle yoga, cacao at home when releasing lots of tears. The list goes on and on. That's great. Great list. Thank you so much for sharing, Dipali. I appreciate you all so much.